watching NBC4, the Tri-State News Channel. And now, Chuck Scarborough, Sue Simmons, Janice Huff, and Len Berman. This is News Channel 4 at 11.
Designer outfits, designer smiles, dazzling lights, and glamorous stars behind the scenes of the Daytime Emmy Awards.
A snarling pit bull mauls a 6-year-old girl. Hear from the courageous Staten Island woman who chased the dog away. Good evening. A witness says the vicious attack lasted almost 20 minutes.
Tonight, a 6-year-old Staten Island girl is recovering from a vicious mauling by her babysitter's Pitbull. News Channel 4's Glenn Walker is live in the newsroom right now with more on this attack and the woman who finally stopped it. Glenn?
Well, Chuck, tonight we talked to that woman who should get credit for saving the life of 6-year-old Alexis Burke. She not only called 911 for help, she beat the pit bull off the little girl who is now in the hospital recovering from a vicious mauling.
Well, last night I couldn't sleep because of it. Because, I mean, all I heard was screaming.
Christina Segura was still shaken up when I talked to her earlier tonight, just after her return from St. Vincent's Hospital. Late yesterday, her 6-year-old neighbor, Alexis Burke, was mauled by a pit bull in a first-floor apartment below Segura.
And I thought it was the basic, normal routine of everybody fighting, and I heard a little baby screaming. And then I had proceeded downstairs, and I came outside, and the lady that was supposed to be watching the little girl stuck her head out the window and just kept screaming for help.
Segura says Doreen McCain, who was babysitting, had warned the 6-year-old not to go into the apartment. The pit bull named Princess recently gave birth to 7 puppies. The dog's instinct, similar to the one in this picture, is to protect her territory. And the attack was so vicious, Segura had to use a baseball bat to get the dog off the little girl.
I mean, the damage that the little girl had on her body, I mean, she had half of her body was bitten up by the dog.
Was she unconscious at this point?
Yeah, no, she was conscious throughout the whole thing. Throughout the whole thing, she was conscious. And, I mean, when I had went into the apartment, I seen the dog, and I had my bat, and I just kept hitting the dog until the dog let go. And the little girl had the strength. I don't know how she had the strength, but she had the strength to get up and run into my apartment.
The 6-year-old was rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital with at least 30 dog bites. Both legs and one arm were fractured.
She still has nightmares. She's having nightmares about the dog biting her. She keeps telling me and her mother that she still feels the dog on her leg.
Now, Alexis Burke's mother, Gail, who is at St. Vincent's, declined our request for an interview tonight, but we are told that Alexis is in stable condition. The babysitter, Doreen McCain, was arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a child. The pit bull and 7 puppies, along with another dog, were taken away by dog control. In the newsroom, Glenn Walker, News Channel 4. Now back to Sue.
Glenn, thank you. 2 pilots were injured, one seriously, when their small twin-engine propeller plane crashed near Long Island's MacArthur Airport. The Beach King Air en route from East Hampton went down shortly before 5:30 this afternoon on its final approach to the airport's runway. The pilot radioed the control tower that the plane was experiencing double engine failure. The NTSB is investigating the accident.
It took 3 days of deliberations, but today a Brooklyn jury returned a verdict in the stabbing death of social worker Amy Watkins. Guilty. The killer, 28-year-old David Jameson, never denied robbing Watkins on a Prospect Park Street 2 years ago. But in a videotaped interview, he told the police her death was accidental, that she fell backward into his 12-inch kitchen knife. The victim's father said he sought justice, not vengeance.
Of course, we're just now really all kinds of emotions right now. But we've waited for this for a long time. Amy was a wonderful person.
Jameson was convicted of robbery and second-degree murder. He faces 25 years to life in prison.
The search continues for the killer of 2 men whose bodies were found in Riverside Park. Tonight, the brother of one of the victims showed us photographs of him. Gabriel Chantes of Little Falls is the father of 2 children and has lived in America for 5 years. His brother said he had no enemies, but when he went to work, he never returned. Instead, he was found shot dead on the banks of the Hudson. Chantes will be returned to his native Mexico for burial.
And tonight, the FBI is apologizing to a Totowa minister, calling his arrest a case of mistaken identity. It all began when the Reverend Jack Copas of the United Methodist Church went to his Honda dealership to pick up a friend's car. One of the workers there thought he was an alleged pedophile, Eric Rosser, who was recently featured on America's Most Wanted. Paramus police and the FBI held Copas for 3 hours until they checked his fingerprints and then admitted they'd collared the wrong suspect.
For the first time since the 1967 Middle East War, Israel used fighter jets against Palestinian targets. The attacks were in retaliation for a suicide bombing that killed 6 people at a shopping mall in a seaside resort not far from Tel Aviv. The Israelis used American-made F-16 warplanes to fire rockets at Palestinian security targets in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. At least 9 Palestinians were killed. The latest clashes appear to dash even the faintest hopes that the Israelis and Palestinians could reach a truce and eventually return to peace talks.
The greatest generation is dying. Of the 16 million Americans who fought in World War II, fewer than 6 million are still alive, and that number is dropping rapidly. Old age and infirmity are claiming more than 1,000 veterans a day. As the nation debates a memorial to their sacrifice, some of the forgotten heroes are already being remembered thanks to one World War II veteran on one final mission to do something for 3 buddies he couldn't help long, long ago.
For 50-some years, that's always bothered me. You know, could I have done something?
Howard Swanger survived 328 days of hard fighting across Europe with the 2nd Armored Division. But one battle in particular haunts him to this day. He spotted a German gun emplacement moments before it fired, killing 3 of his friends in a scout car.
It went right through the driver's hatch, decapitated the driver, killed the lieutenant and the gunner.
It was a bloody postscript to the D-Day invasion when the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy to drive the German army out of France. Losses were horrific that first day, especially at Omaha Beach. U.S. forces were caught in a lethal crossfire from German guns on the bluffs. 2,000 men were killed on Omaha Beach in the opening hours of the invasion, never even making it off the sand. 57 years later, Omaha Beach is deceptively peaceful. Tides and time have washed away all evidence of the carnage of D-Day, until you look in the other direction. This is the American Cemetery at Omaha Beach, the final resting place for 9,387 young Americans who died liberating France.
It was a massacre. It was awful.
It was their sacrifice that Howard Swanger could never stop thinking about. Finally, diagnosed with prostate cancer and facing his own mortality, Swanger decided to do something. He went back to France, looking for the place where those 3 friends had been killed, and found it.
It was the exact spot where I thought it was. That was it.
To his astonishment, Swanger found parts of the scout car hit by that German shell more than half a century ago.
They scraped all the other parts that were off of it over into the ditch and covered them up. Well, they were still there. I got 19 pieces out there.
He asked the mayor of Saint-Georges-de-Rouy to build a memorial to his friends. And on the 30th of August last year, it was dedicated. The entire village turned out to honor 3 American GIs. Sergeant Adam Robichaud from Louisiana, Lieutenant William Chapnoy, and Private James Shelton from West Virginia. They even found a restored scout car for the occasion. Mission accomplished, Swanger returned to Florida, but began to think about other forgotten GIs who deserved memorials.
One guy here, one soldier here, one friend here. Just for him to put the name up. That's all I asked.
Spearheading the effort here in France is a retired American major and his French wife, who live here in the little Normandy village of Saint-Denis-le-Gast.
My gosh, you know, if the American didn't show up, you know where the French would be now today? Under the German boots.
Terry Dungy knows about German boots. She spent the war in a Nazi labor camp for refusing to cooperate with the German occupiers. Beaten, starved, and subjected to the worst kind of brutality. Tell me about your experience during the war.
No, I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want to remember anything.
Terry Dungy prefers remembering the Americans who died fighting her captors. She and her husband Ken have devoted themselves to Howard Swanger's monument project. Because of them, Jesse Montjoy's name is engraved in La Haye-Penel, the village where he died far from his home in Kentucky. And Pennsylvanian Harry S. Katoski has a monument in Saint-Piance. And Carl C. Hilton of Oklahoma is remembered by the village of Lelou. And just last month, the village of La Belliere dedicated a memorial to Lieutenant Donald Markle of Dunellen, New Jersey, whose P-51 fighter plane crashed here on the 4th day of the invasion, June 10, 1944. Terry Dungy and her husband Ken were there, as they have been for every dedication. Ken still sharp in his old Air Force uniform.
One thing we want the people back home is to know that they haven't forgotten the sacrifices that our men made.
I thought, you know, the people before that, they didn't know who it was. And the people who lost, you know, their sons and daughters, they didn't know where they were killed. They didn't know nothing about it. Now they know.
Howard Swanger's personal health battle is not going so well. His prostate cancer has spread to his bones. But that hasn't dampened his spirit or his enthusiasm for his monument project. He has 6 more dedications in the pipeline.
Coming up, Janet Reno's political aspirations.
Also straight ahead, Florida's Disney World threatened by several brush fires tonight.
And later, highlights from the Daytime Emmy Award show. We'll be right back. Former Attorney General Janet Reno says she may run against Jeb Bush in next year's Florida gubernatorial race. Reno served 5 terms as Miami-Dade County Attorney before becoming the nation's top law enforcement officer under President Clinton. Reno admits her role in overseeing the seizure of Elian Gonzalez could be a major issue in the campaign. Bush plans to announce next month whether he will seek re-election.
Well, it seems not even Mickey Mouse can escape the threat of wildfires in central Florida. 2 hotspots near Disney World in Orlando kept firefighters busy this afternoon. Crews snuffed out a 10-acre brush fire near the Epcot Center parking lot. But a 140-acre blaze is still burning near the Animal Kingdom. Helicopters are attacking the flames with water. There are no injuries reported now in either fire.
Janice Hupp's weekend forecast is next.
And we'll go live to Radio City Music Hall for the Daytime Emmy Awards. Straight ahead.